Ride fa, to be or not to be. Ride la stella, ride fa, tra la la.
New Pope, who dis? Welcome to the officially unofficial podcast for the New Pope on HBO. I'm Jim.
I'm A.Ron.
I'm Cecily.
And we watched season 1, episode 4 of the New Pope, which I think is season 2, episode 14 of the Young Pope. That sounds right. What'd you think of this week's episode?
This one was man. I don't even know what to say. It felt like this was a lot more of a thinker. That they're doing a lot of things with, comparing and contrasting what's going on with Esther and the church and John Paul III and nun striking, and then on top of everything, looks like the young pope is getting a little twitchy. He's moving his head around. So
is he getting twitchy or is he dying? Like,
you think that was a head death roll flop?
I can never tell. I can never tell with these popes and comas.
I thought it was a gross motor function, but it could be him just giving up the ghost. Like, he's literally just going.
He sees what Esther's doing. He sees what the church is doing. He's just like, nah,
he's done.
Nah.
He's done. Time to go to heaven.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, I had to really think about a lot of things, and I had to do some research because some of the stuff that is going on about like what's the 8 per thousand? I don't know what the hell the 8 per thousand is. And some of the things they're doing with Esther and her priest and this disabled or deformed. I don't know what to call this kid, this 20-year-old that they've got her being fondled by. It's some uncomfortable watching, and I remember this point in Young Pope. I there's a lot of times where I'm like, Lenny, what the fuck are you doing? And I find myself saying that about John at this point. Like, what the hell is he doing? It seems like he is just, slouching towards a failed papacy. And I didn't expect that from him. But I also think that he's probably got some grander scheme that he's trying to pull off. What do you guys think?
I mean, I kept thinking that as well. I keep thinking that there's no way he's going to go for this. The Bentley, the blackmail, there's no way he's going to go for this. But he's not a man of steel. And he said as much when he started, I guess. Voiello just didn't expect for someone else to come along and have some other power over him. Which seems like your basic research you do if you're running for, political office or something like that. You would have someone vet you first so you know what people are going to bring forward against you, right? It seems like this guy who knows what's in the silver box has this huge power over him. This guy with a folder on Voiello has power over him.
I would love to know what was in that folder that had Voiello go instantly from talking shit to shitting his pants. Like, he's like, oh, what's it going to be? It's going to be, then he looks at it and he's like, oh my God, what do you want?
Pulled this trigger 100 times. You're not scaring me. Oh, nope, I'm scared.
The only thing I think would actually scare him is like a body count. Like, oh, you killed this guy. His body's here. You had this radical destroyed. This is where you getting some kind of testimony from Bauer or photo evidence, because like Voiello, I don't think he fucks around sexually. I don't think he has much in the way of conventional vice. He's just a ruthless old school medieval cardinal, like killing people and poisoning people and getting people out of the way.
But if it's what's inside of the folder is like a threat against his favorite soccer team,
you could
Okay, sure,
they're gonna have the lead footballer killed.
They're going to destroy their chance at the World Cup.
Yeah.
And he just blanches.
It's interesting to me that you guys think that that John Paul III here is sort of not in control of anything, or is like taking some weird middle road here, because I don't see it that way. I sort of see it as him gathering information. This is his intel phase of being the Pope. He just stepped into office.
He's diagnosing the church.
Yeah. He's considering, like, what does the church need here? What is the love that he's going to bring it? And I think I don't see him as being weak at this moment. I see him as simply planning, simply arranging pieces where he wants them.
Do you think he's feigning some of the vanity that he's showing as far as like, hey, I want to go, it's just the basic like discomfort with Marilyn Manson, and then realizing that, oh, you're not the Pope I thought you were. I didn't even know who you were.
Well, okay, so I guess I don't view that as vanity. I don't think him. So he likes Marilyn Manson. We know that. He said as much. But I didn't see his reaction to Marilyn Manson not knowing who he was as vanity or as like feeling like he was jilted or something. I viewed it more as like, oh, there's a problem of people not knowing the Pope, and I need to get the image of the Pope out there so that I can be an authority in people's lives again.
Yeah, I guess, and he has said as much. He goes, this isn't vanity, this is a necessity. People should reflexively know who the Pope is.
I felt very much like he was moving pieces in the middle of the episode too, but it's the confession at the end that he gives Gutierrez where he's saying, I've taken the first step towards sin, and it seems like he's falling in love with Sophia in a way, and that can be kind of a weakness.
I have a confession.
Okay.
A, I'm falling in love with Sophia, but B,
me too.
The three, but the Trinity is in one accord on this.
I did not remember what his confession was.
He said,
That's
"I'm
my
taking
confession.
the first step towards sin." I
Okay.
think that's
It
all
was
we
a-
got.
It was like a veiled
non-confession,
confession,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Because you could, and the way they filmed like Sophia positioning herself in front of the glory hole, contrasted to Gutierrez's memory of going out with Freddie and seeing his gorgeous body, etc. I thought that what we were supposed to understand is that Sir John was fantasizing or putting himself in the place of Gutierrez only with something that he was tempted by. But then, of course, we find out that no, this is actually a glory hole such situation with her and Tomas.
And this
going
is like
on.
a Frank and Claire Underwood
Yeah.
power sex
Exchange
thing. Like,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
And-
I think all those things are true. I think in that moment he was fantasizing, and we see what she's actually doing.
Well, that's what
Okay.
this show is. So it's so hard. It defies like your traditional analysis of symbolism versus real events, because sometimes those lines are very blurry, especially when you got like centipedes crawling in people's ears.
Yeah.
But like
or
it's
slaloms with crosses.
yeah, but it's like, did that really happen? And it's like, then it's contrasted the kids skiing into gravel path. But the way they played it is like, I'm not sure if he's talking about like the lust he feels for Sophia, if he's talking about the financial deals that he's making or the compromises he's making for the church's behalf to keep it solvent or whatever, to keep it relevant on the world stage.
Or the guy blackmailing him, knowing what's in the box.
Yeah, because the thing is like with Lenny, I didn't understand what he was doing, but I always felt like he was in control, and what was happening was exactly what happened. But there's a lot of unguarded moments with Sir John here where it's like and maybe this is just for the benefit of us and the camera, and he's rope-a-doping us, but he seems to be thinking, what have I got myself into? Like, I thought it was going to be this way, and it's actually this other way. And I thought that this would be fun, but it's not fun. And that's what he feels very like he's allowing himself to go along with a lot of things. But also he says, I'm not concrete and I'm not committing to everything. So maybe he's giving people enough rope to collectively hang themselves from St. Peter's Basilica. I don't know, but he's playing this, and they've told him they've said us also the entire season that this is a porcelain pope. He's very fragile, and it seems like they're telling a story of this fragile, manipulatable, easily flattered pope being just railroaded. But that could just be him playing whatever game he's playing.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm really not sure, and sometimes this show is messy, which would be very bad on another show, but somehow I feel like it works here.
Yeah, because they do on that spiritual, physical, metaphor, literal, just like the Bible. Like Jesus was probably a real historical figure, but did he turn water into wine and walk on the water? That's a whole other question. So when you're trading in those kind of ideas, it's easy to be that that fluid and messy and have it seem like, oh well, that's the intention, instead of like, oh, this is just they got to sit apart in the writer's room and went and that came out on the screen. Do we want to talk like in a little bit more focused way about the plot? Because I, as always, kind of want to start with John Paul III.
Sure.
And is there anything we want to say about the what do you think of the Marilyn Manson appearance, the cameo?
It was not what I expected.
I hadn't seen Marilyn Manson for like 15 years,
Yeah.
so I was kind of shocked at the ravages of he's still doing the Marilyn Manson shtick, but
He's older.
He's going into like a reality show Ozzy Osbourne kind of phase where, is he aware of everything that he's doing? And
Right.
just so coincidentally, like I was reading on Reddit, there was something hit the front page about what's the worst concert experience you had in your life, and there's a lot of people saying that I guess like modern Marilyn Manson concerts are a shit show because he shows up with full contempt of the crowd in various stages of inebriation and preparedness, and it's not good. So.
Yeah, that's what you get from a free person, I guess.
Yeah,
that's what's so admirable.
Doesn't owe you shit. He's got his own man.
Yeah, it was a quieter scene. It was a less eventful scene than I expected. It was
Just awkward,
it was awkward.
but not in the way I would expect it. Like with a Pope meeting with Marilyn Manson, just the basic awkwardness of the Pope not sure what he's supposed to say to him, and Marilyn.
Yeah, there was like a
clearly-
human awkwardness to it that you don't expect from Marilyn Manson.
Yeah. Like if there was awkwardness, he would just do something weird, like whip his dick out, or piss on the Pope's sofa or something.
The globe. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't just expect him to kind of wallow in it like a normal person.
I love that he remembers that the Pope gave this really moving speech. Didn't remember him having a beard. Didn't remember that the Pope had a heart attack at the end of that speech.
It's a lot's happened in 9 months, to be
and
fair.
there's been two popes since then.
Yeah. To be fair to
been
Mr.
working
Manson,
on his album.
Yeah, he's working on his album. There's a lot of shit went down in the last 9 months. There's a scene after this where I don't know. There's a whole like the Pope has called all the cardinals together to celebrate their elaborate baked goods. They had the great Papal Bake Off show. And then it's interesting because there's this cardinal that's strumming about like this. I was paying attention to song lyrics, and it's like, what makes us feel so good when we're together? What makes us feel this way? What is the feeling? God loves us, and he's happy if he's able to show us our love. And then John Paul cuts him off. And I'm like, is this a metaphor for like some of the gay relationships that we're seeing in the Vatican? That like, they're all together and they're at one and they're brothers and they love each other, but suddenly it's a problem if anyone.
I wouldn't even say it's the gay relationships because it's the sex all around in all of these relationships, like Esther and the priest.
And the nuns are getting freaky with each other, it seems like.
Esther and the boy that she's,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say forced or made to, but definitely strongly encouraged to have
Certainly
sex
coerced,
with.
I would say.
Yeah, coerced.
Yeah.
It's all the relationships. They're all fucked up.
Yeah.
It's the nuns having sex with each other and kissing boys or refugees in garden sheds.
It's the guilt and the shame that seems like
Yeah.
is the problem. Like, imagine if God were shame, like if God was only allowed to love women between the ages of 18 and 99. Everybody else, it's like if he loves them, he just got to feel weird about it. Like little boys, grown men, intersex people, like God's does this even look right? Like, but there's all this like guilt and shame about it. It's not like, hey, do I want to do this thing with my body? Do I want to give the feel this way about a certain person, and how should I express it? It's this other layer of also there's these rules that tell me that, like Gutierrez says, like, God fulfills me spiritually, Freddie fulfills me physically, and yet why do I feel so empty?
Right.
It seems like the emptiness is generated by the arbitrary rules that are put upon both of those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the clash between those two things.
But then again, those rules are part of the Catholic Church mystique that we keep on hearing throughout these last two seasons, that's the real lifeblood that the church runs on. If it's anything less than inscrutable, then people will, get bored with it and put it on a shelf and not play with it anymore.
Right.
But this scene also talks about, like, I don't know if this is going to be the John Paul III doctrine where, hey, look, we're not going to hang pedophile priests because that's not Christ-like. And the church doesn't abandon people when they're ill, and that's what these pedophile church priests are. But what you do have to do is quarantine the ill from the healthy, and you can't have them at the heart of ecclesiastical life, which means I think that if you are caught being a pedophile, then you can't be a priest anymore.
Yeah, and
Could
It
be.
seems like the bare minimum that would have to happen, but the devil's in the details of that too.
yeah, I'm hoping for John Paul to start elaborating on some of these things and less like the metaphors of love, because what does that mean? If you make someone not a priest anymore, then where do they go and who do they continue to hurt outside of the church?
And like, is that like a secret thing that's like, well, you're just retiring as a priest and you can go forth, and or is it more like you're no longer a priest and also these charges have been handed over to authorities to investigate?
But that
properly?
would be hanging them, right?
It'd be, well, I mean, I don't. It's the church wouldn't be the ones doing the hanging. It would be Caesar. And traditionally, the
Seems
church
like a
is
loophole.
okay with Caesar doing whatever the fuck Caesar wants to do.
Sure, but I mean, I think it feels like John Paul is taking a different approach to this.
Well, and what I really love is, and this is like the third episode they've done it, like he makes these very high-minded appeals, this middle way appeal to these topics, and he's done it in the address to the curio, and now he's doing it in this little more informal bakery kind of thing. But they always have the camera like spinning around him, and it's slow enough that you can see each word register on the cardinals' faces, and some of them are like, "Oh, I really like that," and some of them are like, "I don't know about that," and I don't know. Are you supposed to understand that this is John Paul's also seeing this too, and he's kind of triangulating? Like, what is the thing that's going to what's the thing that I can push through with my power? What's the thing where people are going to be like, okay, well, yeah, we can get behind this. What's going to be, oh, that's too far?
What's the thing that's going to get me murdered?
Whereas, like,
Right.
like Jude Law's Lenny didn't ever give a fuck. He was saying what he thought was right and how he understood his relationship with God and how people should interface with God in the church, and whether they liked it or not, he's the Pope, damn it, and it's going to happen that way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one of the reasons I give John Paul III a little more credit than to say, oh, he's this porcelain priest, is because he doesn't seem to just like it seems like he's taking his time in this, and I view that sort of as a way of preparing, not like unsurety or some kind of like indecision. It's more just like figuring out the landscape.
Yeah, I wonder, because that's kind of the core of my issue, is like with this meeting Spalletta, Cardinal Spalletta has with him outside, presents him to Bentley, and he's like, oh, I'm not concrete, and they had like these dueling blackmails, like, I remember when we shared a room, and he's like, yeah, I remember all the young people you had in and out of there. It's like, I remember that silver box you had, this goddamn silver box. And then like the way Malkovich kind of smiled and says, I just never answer, because he says, what do you prefer, Holy Father, blackmail or benevolence? He's like, I never answer serious questions at night, especially if I've been drinking champagne. And I'm like, okay, so John Malkovich kind of doesn't give a fuck. But the next time we see it, he's saying he's trying to find a middle way between setting aside Voiello, which is what Thomas and this guy wants, and having this guy in his inner circle. It's like, well, why not just slam the door shut on this guy? What does he have over him? That he's used to be a heroin addict, still a heroin addict?
Is it that he's doing the keep your enemies close thing?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Also, I'm now, as much as this goddamn silver box, as much as I was dismissive of it next week, I am starting to think that it might be something a little bit more complicated than just, some rubber tube and a
Sleep drugs.
syringe, because
Yeah.
that's a long time to have a heroin habit in check. I mean,
Sure.
I know that there are people that have been able to not chase that dragon's tail, but holy hell, your brother dies at 25, and 40 years later you're still like Mr. Roboting it, just like carefully controlled things of heroines you can get by like that.
How would you feel if we never found out?
I actually think that'd be amazing.
I want to know though.
Yeah, I mean, because
Yeah.
it is. It's like if someone asks you in the middle of Pulp Fiction, like, what if you never find out what's in the briefcase? We'd probably but that's kind of the brilliant thing about it. It's what it means. It's something he's deeply ashamed of. It's something that he needs or thinks he needs to function. What is it exactly?
Yeah. And now he's in this position where he has to choose whether or not to appoint Sophia's husband to his inner cabinet as well.
So that
And he clearly does by the end of this episode.
Yeah, I think
seems
so.
like it. That's what probably the glory
glory
hole
hole's all
BJ
about.
is all about. The successful culmination of this plot.
Yeah.
Some people I saw on the internet were like, seems like there are some fans that are really ripping this season. I still on episode 4. I'm not sure why, but the one of the attacks is, well, this Thomas guy, Tomas, where the fuck did he come from? If he's like making this play at this high level, why haven't we ever seen him in previous seasons? I feel like that's a pretty, I don't know, like entry level take, because there's a lot of upheaval. Like maybe he didn't see a spot for doing this, and now there's been 3 popes come and gone,
Yeah.
and he's got a friend that has a personal connection with this guy, and it just what happened. And he's taken his shot where that, where Lenny he had no in on, or say Francis he had no in on. It's like he's coming in now to plot because now is his time to enter the story. Like,
yeah, I mean, he seems like obviously a finance guy who's familiar with the prime minister of finance. So maybe he's been working like political machinations in the past.
My understanding is that the Vatican itself has pretty vast financial holdings and a manager that manages that, and it seems like what they're doing is maybe putting aside the old whoever was responsible for that before and elevating Thomas's and his acquisitions company. So now they'll be shuffling the billions that Rome has.
Right, exactly what I was thinking. And maybe there's like a new prime minister of finance that puts him in a better position to do this thing. Because do you
Right.
think it's a bluff that they're going to?
No,
I mean, I think it's a.
No, I
you
think
think
it's
about
I think
Italian
it's the clash
politics.
of politics and the church. Like the balance of power there has been shifting for centuries toward the more secular side. The church has been losing a lot of power in Europe in general, and I think this is just more of that.
But Spalletta says if you appoint Thomas, he can get them to change their mind, right? And
I don't remember,
Yeah, so
that same guy was the one that met them.
but he said he
in the
can delay
bunker.
it. Right?
Delay it?
Yeah, and by the time that happens, maybe there'll be somebody new in office, and we can maybe push this off long enough for it to never happen. But
because there's so much upheaval in Italian politics.
right.
Because I'm totally in agreement that they shouldn't be paying taxes to the church.
Well, yeah, but Italy's
Personally.
Italy's a strange and wonderful place. I think that it's clear to me that the $1 billion of euro that they would lose does not matter to the church. It's more of like the mystique that they've got, like this large, powerful, historically important country that tithes on an official basis, $8 per every, and the way the 8 per thousand means. I did a little bit of research that that every $8 that an Italian makes, or every $1,000 an Italian makes, they have to remit this $8 to this fund.
Yeah.
And the fund isn't even what it used to be. Like, I guess you can on your tax return earmark what you want these funds to be used for, but if you don't, it defaults to this portfolio of people, and the Catholic Church makes up a big portion of it. So undoing that would undo $1 billion of free funding they get just from Italy alone. But again, on the church's scale, that $1 billion has got to be less than nothing.
They made it seem like it was going to bankrupt them, or maybe they were just being.
But that's what they were.
hyper-political.
That's what they were saying. In front of the politicians. Like, surely not. Surely not. You don't need $1 billion to operate. But maybe you do. Maybe they need
I don't
that
know.
to keep their cash flow positive.
Yeah, it could be. I guess I was reading something about the church's holdings, and it all had to do with Lenny being in Venice as his sort of coma bed sanctuary thing, because that seems to be what is happening here. I didn't realize that all these people going back and forth to Venice were going to visit Lenny or going to interact with Lenny somehow.
I did not know how far Venice was away from Rome. It's like a 4.5 hour train trip or whatever. It's not it's not like driving an hour or something. It's a significant. So why is he in Venice recovering instead
I don't
of
know
the
why
Vatican?
he's there, but I was looking into the holdings of it to see what buildings do they have in Venice and stuff like that. And I read something that said that in 2017 the church claimed net profits of $76 million, which you minus $1 billion from that, and the numbers don't look good.
Yeah, but is that like that New Line Cinema maintains that they
Right.
netted
That's what I'm wondering.
$17 from Lord of the Rings?
Yeah,
because-
after we buy 600,000 rings,
Yeah,
one for each new
Yeah,
card.
have you
one
seen
for,
the solid gold Jesus
and
we have?
Bentleys and a contemporary cross. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
all,
like what is their net worth?
Right.
Because if net worth is like, $517 billion, then who gives a fuck what their net revenue is?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the trip that they took to Venice? Speaking of Venice, where at Marilyn Manson's behest, John Paul III goes to visit him, and it seems like he dealt like with his feelings of lust towards Sophia by like transmuting that to like the him like lusting after him with his eye, like he turned that around and made himself an object of the gaze of the press. Like he tried to transmute that like fascination with seeing her to fascination with seeing him. Then he holds his hand. There's this scene with the doctor, which I liked.
Well, in that same scene, he gets her to look at him the same way.
Yeah, right. So it's trying to like it's not jealousy, but more of like I want you to notice me.
Yeah.
I'm noticing you. Now I want you to notice me.
Yeah.
They had this scene with the doctor, who's same guy that plays Proctor Kai on Banshee.
Yes.
the big bad of that series.
Ulrich Thompson.
Haven't seen him in a while.
He's got to do more than just this scene, right?
I hope so.
Okay.
Because if Lenny starts making a miraculous recovery, I'm sure he'll come back. But he explains that he's in a coma, he's alive, he doesn't know. For the first time, they said that they don't expect him to recover.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing indicating this isn't a type of coma that you're going to wake up from. Which doesn't mean you won't. It's just
yeah, especially someone who can perform miracles and probably has the grace of God or whatever.
Sure, yeah, who's able to appear in everyone's bedrooms throughout the series.
Yeah.
And then they also set up another goddamn mystery, which is Sir John goes to confront what I'm going to call the hooded idolaters. And this very fierce and distinctive woman refuses to kiss his ring, but does grab him into like a hostile embrace and whispers something to his ear. Will we ever find out what that is, or is this going to lost in translation kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't think we will.
Did he tell?
What would you say his reaction upon hearing it was? Like the look on his face.
I don't have words for it. It's somewhere between like surprise and pity and horrified, and like it's complicated.
I thought I saw some flash of real anger too.
Anger,
or
maybe, yeah.
maybe offense because you said horror, or like, but something like,
Yeah.
Like there was an affront that just took place.
Mm-hmm.
And it causes him. So here's something Cecily and I was debating. Maybe you can settle it for us. Sir John rips the curtains down in the Vatican. Do they replace those exact same curtains, or do they? Because I took it that he thought, like, for whatever reason, this room is too dark, and he ripped down the outermost curtains, and then they replaced them with a lighter one. But she says that they were ripped down and replaced the same ones, and it was just it was a later time of the day, so it was brighter.
Yeah,
outside.
I mean, it was him at night.
Wasn't it
putting
night?
It was. He was putting his pipe down, and then he walks over to the window because
Well,
it's
he only
dark
smokes at
outside,
night?
and it's nighttime, and it's dark outside. That's how you know it's night. And he rips down the curtains. The next morning, he's in there
It
with
visibly brightens when he rips those
Let me
curtains
finish.
down.
He's in
All
there
right.
with other people, visibly brighter because it's daytime, and the people have just put the curtains back up.
No,
because they're leaving with the ladder.
They're leaving with the ladder. There is no evidence of them putting the curtains back up.
I was distracted by John Malkovich trying desperately not to get hit with the heavy curtain rod when it came down.
That thing will brain you. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
He looks like he's very unsure. The stuntman has told him, "Look, the curtain rod is not coming down. We've got it on wires. Not a problem, John." But when he pulls that, it looks very much like he does not want to be hit with a heavy metal rod.
Yeah.
What do we make of Adam pretending to ski on their Downton Abbey family grounds? And then cut to the actual scene of maybe someone skiing between crucifixes.
Well, you cut to the box. Yeah. So
Yeah.
So there's the pretend skiing scene. there's the actual like solemn scene with the crosses, and then you cut directly to the box. Mm-hmm. And I have no fucking idea.
They're visibly aged. They have to be in their 20s ish now, maybe
Yeah.
getting somewhere close to 25. Did Adam die in a skiing accident? Are we getting closer to figuring out what
Maybe.
happened to him?
It was a cold winter day.
Uh-huh.
What could John
Slammed
Malkovich
into
have
one of those
possibly done to prevent his death as he's skiing?
He slammed in one of those crucifix, and it wasn't wearing his helmet. He Sonny Bono'd himself. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what they're going with this. It's one of those things where it's like my brain marks it as interesting and intriguing and save it for later, because you're not going to understand even by half what the hell this is just Rosebud shit from Citizen Kane.
But I think that's where the show kind of defies that, because in the next episode they might explain it completely, and we're looking too hard at it right now.
Yeah.
Could be. So what I have the next section I want to talk about is Voiello versus Spalletta, because it seems like these are in opposition. Voiello is under kind of siege and has some credible threats against him, where Spalletta's coming in with this unique relationship. I think it's important that like Sophia is standing behind him, but his initial turn, where it felt like a defeat, where the Pope, what he really wanted to be is a Secretary of State. What he got to be is this kind of amorphous personal assistant / what?
Secretary of Creativity?
Secretary of
Or
Creativity.
in charge of creativity? Yeah.
But all of his creative solutions got panned. Hold on a second. But all these creative solutions got panned, and except for the one where he's like, because one, he gave an idea about doing this art installation with this new crucifix, and Voiello shit all over it, because we've done this before, and it's going to be this, it's going to be that, it's going to be expensive. The next one he suggested, Sir John himself shits on, and then Voiello is there to be like, oh, I thought that was a excellent suggestion or something.
Yeah. Sarcastic asshole.
What is that's the thing, is like I don't understand why Sir John is entrusting him. That's where I don't understand his game, because the next thing is he says he wants to counsel him by himself, and he just asks about Voiello and what he thinks he had to do with the death of the previous pope. But Sir John knows, like, right?
Yeah, I feel like he's just gathering information, like Jim said earlier.
Is this a test to see how much power this guy actually has? Because, like, if you want to be the man, you need to be able to take down the man. Mm-hmm. And if you can't take down the man, then why would I have you as my man when I have the man right here?
I think he's suspicious of everyone in this entire organization, aside from maybe Gutierrez. So I think he is, like you said, keeping his enemies close, using them, pumping them for information, and sort of biding his time until he understands the lay of the land.
It seems like no one knows that Voiello has I cannot say this guy's name. Has this Bauer guy as his ace up his sleeve. Is that really supposed to be a mystery? Because there's this talk about like the Lord's clear. He's clearly helped by the Lord, but who is this Lord? And then they show his face, right? But then they also
divine and show Bauer, or is he human and show his Guillermo?
Girolamo. Girolamo. What is the true source of his power, I guess, is what they're hinting at. And then I thought that I was like looking at him discussing these things with Girolamo, and he goes on this fascinating speech about, like, to me, the crystalline truth as he sees it, as power and mortal sin are the same. They're divinely bound. Like, you can't have true power in this world, and if you do, it comes with sin. And I thought he was going to go really something interesting, but then he, I think, just diverges into soccer talk, where he starts worrying about his best team's lineup and whether they could have done more with acquisitions. But also, that works as a way, like if you're talking about like a holding company that might be checking out the Vatican's assets, like it works on that level too.
Some kind of metaphor here, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, but then we also see that these Italian politicians who are running against, privilege and corruption are revoking this 8 per 1,000 rule. And he also shows up at the folder, and Voiello's very dismissive of it until he's not. And the guy doesn't really want anything except for, hey, there's no more backroom games. It's over. It's old, obsolete, and you're dishonest and outdated. And it really puts him back on his heels.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of how this season is shaping up. I think introducing all these new factions, the assassin on Voiello's side, the government getting involved, Spalletta and all his stuff. I'm really more intrigued by this season as far as like the actual plot goes than I was last season.
Yeah. I think I agree. Like last season might have coasted more on the personal charisma and magnetism of Jude Law's performance, whereas this is the intrigue is because Lenny defeated all Voiello's schemes by just being
just incorruptible. By fiat.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and being incorruptible as well.
Yeah. Just having no weaknesses to exploit. Whereas this is a little bit more interesting because Sir John got plenty of weaknesses that one could exploit.
Yeah, everyone in this equation does. And then you've also got the nuns on that side,
Haven't got to the nun strike yet. I want to talk, see if there's anything more to say about this Gutierrez, because I thought this is interesting, especially the way they frame it with, so you got the confession, also you've got the glory hole. And as the writer in The Vulture pointed out, like these are examples of people having an intimate act with a barrier between them.
Okay.
And also in both of these cases, like there is this expectation of anonymity and privacy, but in this particular situation, a glory hole, you go in a bathroom of a truck stop and you get your dick sucked or you suck a dick. You have no idea whose dick that is or whose mouth that is. Here you got husband and wife. And this, if you go to your parish priest, he's got like 500 people in his congregation. He might not recognize your voice or your profile or whatever. But here you've got the Pope and the Pope's confessor. Like everyone knows what's going on.
They walk into the room at the same time. Like they know.
Yeah. So like that's, I think, very, very interesting where you got this supposed veil of secrecy between these intimate acts, but then they also juxtapose it with Esther.
Yeah.
And what's going on? So Esther seems like she's just being straight up, and I wonder if they're trying to say something about these pedophile priests, because it seems to me that Esther's being groomed like this is classical grooming, and she's a grown ass woman, which is a big difference than a child, but like. She's got what she thinks she should do and wants to do, and she's got her boyfriend. You call him a boyfriend? You've got her Fabiano. You got her parish priest. That's does she know what's going on when he comes in the room and fondles her? Is she like in the throes of like Lenny ecstasy, or is that just her happy place she goes to so she doesn't have to? She like disassociates and fantasizes about Lenny instead of this dude.
I think that's absolutely what's happening, because this guy has the power over her, where she lives, how she can provide for her son.
Oh, for sure.
And he's gonna take advantage. I mean, I think they tested her by giving her over to Fabiano and seeing her willingness to do that. And now that she's proved that she's a good Christian, it just puts this veil of Christianity over all of it, and just makes it so gross, and it's hard to separate the two.
Remind me, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And just her imagining Lenny in that moment, who she feels has abandoned her, and she just doesn't have this choice anymore. But he was the pure thing, the purest part of Christianity for her. Mm-hmm. So I think he comforts her in those moments of being molested by this guy.
What was that documentary that we watched? I was on Netflix about these Catholic priests that were long-term abusing these young women, and it wasn't men in this case; it was young women, and like some of the nuns. Do you remember that one we watched? It's called.
I didn't watch that one.
Oh, okay. Well, shoot, because like a lot of what this is going on, where like these priests would abuse these young women and then use that abuse as kind of like, well, yeah, you're used up and sinful. You got nothing. Kind of like the same way with, Fabiano's like, well, you're just, you're not willing to do what it takes to be a real Christian. And, then when she does that, then, but it's interesting because the very last scene she has with this young man, there's also this kind of veil of shadow and stuff. So they got this kind of permeable wall to intimacy, but seems like she's been able to get in touch with something that allows her to see the beauty in what she's doing.
Right, or have some sort of power in her own situation in that moment.
Right. But with all the conditioning that's gone on to get her to this point, I wonder, like, is that actually genuine or...
There's no way it can be.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's all fucked. It's all real fucked.
You know, the nuns even, they say that at one point when they say that they want respect, and he says, can you elaborate on that a little more? And she says, do I really need to tell you what it is your brothers can get up to?
Uh-huh.
And it just makes you feel like everyone is affected. It's all about the sex and the problematic nature of it.
So let's talk about the nun strike. We see the nuns doing this lay-in in the Sistine Chapel. Cavallo is ready to resign over the potential disgrace he's going to bring to his boss because they weren't put off with the usual wall of indifference. So, Voiello finds out that they just wanted 200 euros and goes to quickly make amends. But now the nun's like, oh, no. Our demands have changed. We want social, moral, and economic recognition of their work. They want to be able to administer the sacraments, which is, the Eucharist and the wine. And they have a whole other list of things. And it seems like that the abbess was going to get railroaded by Voiello, whereas Sister Lizette sees the trap that he's setting for her, that, like, you're just going to increase his personal power and diminish ours. Mm-hmm. And Viello's, like, rubbing his hands together, like, oh, man, I finally have a worthy adversary, a challenge. But, like, I don't know. I found this scene very depressing because I see myself as a person trying to make changes to a powerful entrenched system from the outside. And the scene kind of like showed the futility of resisting when the other person has all of the power and all of the control, because he's able to undo their protest
and all the passwords to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, he's able to fuck them over because they can't leave. Like they can't leave so they can't actually collaborate with nuns in person. He's able to switch off their Wi-Fi, and that's it. That's all they can. They can no longer collaborate and disseminate their ideas. How are they going to win? Was the dark answer is they're not?
That's a good question. This is easily my favorite part of the episode, this battle between the nuns and Voiello. Because Voiello's so fucking shameless. Like, he's completely bald-faced here. They know exactly what he's doing. He knows that they know. He doesn't give a shit. And that Wi-Fi thing is so genius, in my opinion, because he's setting up a no-win scenario for them. And yeah, they're already kind of in a no-win scenario. They're nuns in the Vatican. But here, the one thing that they had, the one bit of power, he's taken away, and he's telling them that they have to compromise their position on this whole thing in order to fix the thing that would allow them to organize more.
Right.
And it's just this like catch-22 that is so brilliantly played out.
And he already identifies the weak one, like the abbess. She's so tired. She's worried that she might have some lump in her breast.
And here's the thing. Like, he's using the smallest bit of the information he's picked up, right? Because he's picked up shit about them fucking each other, about them kissing boys in the shed. Like, there's a lot of shit that is real sinful in the Catholic Church that he knows about.
And
he's using the smallest fucking bit, right?
Yeah.
And so if they overcome this, guess what? There's a bigger hurdle in front of you the next time.
Yeah, he's like, this is the benevolence versus the blackmail, and it's one directional because the nuns can't go into the Vatican and place hidden cameras. It'd be kind of badass if they did. But, I just, it's just, and the way he meets him at first and like has this kind of wall of indifference, forces him to kiss the ring, and then the second time when he's got information and he uses that to negotiate, where he's buttering up the abbess with the chamomile tea, and I'm merely a paper pusher, and it's like, well, we request to meet the Holy Father himself. Well, of course, that's your every right. You just have to file an official request to see him.
With who?
With me. And the way he brightens up, and then, oh my God, that Cavallo his fucking giggling.
Yeah, that got me.
There needs to be like an old school like Machiavelli garroting with him. I need to see Bauer, or I don't know. The nuns need their own Bauer.
They do.
Nuns need a bower, and this guy needs to be strung up. Cause holy hell, it's been a minute since I've hated a person on television this much. Just their face, like we're talking like King. He's getting to be King Joffrey, and that's impressive because he hasn't, as far as I can tell, he hasn't done near the reprehensible shit that he got up to. But oh my god, just his manner and affect and how much joy he takes in bringing people low. Just you want to kick him in the teeth.
Yeah, I feel like Sister Lisette and the leader of the hoodie
abbess.
fanatics would really
Oh.
be good friends.
The leader
Now-
of what?
The hoodie fanatics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the hooded idolaters. That's actually a power couple right there.
Then you have
could
the
see
refugee
that.
that's inside that can leave and like run messages back and forth to the nuns outside. I think they should use him in some way.
Yeah.
They will. I'm
There's
worried
ways outside
for
of
him if they
Wi-Fi.
do, because Voiello is not above having someone murdered.
It's
True.
true. No matter
and
how
I-
high up they are.
Yeah, I say don't get involved, kid. Stay out of it.
I wonder how much longer he'll have that power, because it does feel like that he's at the end of this episode. It feels like he's very boxed in, because whatever's in that report, it's got him completely serious and sober about what his position is in the church and how precarious it is. And at the same time, this new cardinal, Spalletta, seems like he's ready to capitalize on this power vacuum. I know it's really fascinating stuff. We'll have to see what's the next celebrity cameo. We're going to get Sharon Stone next week.
We might.
I feel like the Pope John Paul might get involved with this nuns strike soon, though.
Has to
Because
eventually.
the nun for the popes, who always gets respect, makes him aware of what's happening.
Yeah, we didn't mention that there
and she
is.
doesn't
They
go on
do
strike.
have an in a direct. It's not completely sealed off, because we have this one sister who is not partaking in part of the strike, but she does have their ear, and she has the Pope's ear. So good point. Any other things that we missed?
Ascente dancing.
This is my
Oh my
favorite. This is my
God.
favorite dance scene so far.
To be
be
or
or
not to
not to
be. Yeah, it's really good.
He's the only one who stops dancing, and like in all those end credit scenes, like everybody and he's the only, for lack of a better term, holy person who's danced in any of those.
Yeah.
Or at least it appears to be.
If we don't count the nuns in the opening credits.
Yeah. I'm talking about the post
Yeah.
credit
Yeah,
stuff.
just post credits, right?
So like, what are they trying to say with that when he's spotted by the other cardinals, and he sort of returns to
Is that
form?
shame? Maybe is that shame, that self-consciousness?
Yeah.
It's also the one thing we haven't talked about is Sophia is the only person in this inner circle of the Vatican who is not a priest herself, or is as far as I can tell, has no formal relationship with the church. She's just part of the lay
Yeah, he's
people.
the marketing director. Yeah.
I wonder if there's some kind of thing where you've got the people that are unselfconsciously and without abandon dancing in the end credits versus the priests. So it's like an inverse of that relationship, that he feel like he's the singular thing, and he sees all these eyes on him, and this isn't supposed to be the way a priest behaves. And
Yeah.
whereas Sophia can be a little playful and sexy in her meetings in the Vatican, whereas Voiello can't.
I mean, I don't think there's anything Voiello could do to be sexy
Or
and
playful.
playful.
Right,
yeah.
right. Unless
No.
it's with his Venus. That's the only one that he
Yeah.
can
Oh
really
yeah, the
open up
Venus
to.
showed
of
it.
Willendorf is in his
Yeah.
room.
Yeah, he had it moved all right.
Yeah.
He had it moved where
Yeah,
it's
keeping it
the
safe.
object of his veneration. Well, that's episode of The New Pope. Of course, we will be back next week to consider the next episode. Until that happens, I'm A.Ron.
I'm Jim.
I'm Cecily.
See ya.